In this tutorial, we're going to cover how to create a heads-up display, also called a HUD. As you can see here, we have the word coins up here. You could put the word score, you could put lives or other items, and you can count the number of things. And that would be all part of your heads-up display, letting you know what your status of inventory and score and other relevant items is. So when I press play, you can see that I have 0 listed here as my coins count. I didn't put a coin in here for the sprite, but I used a heart for the sprite. So if I were to collide with this heart, it adds 1 to the coin. So whether I want to draw a coin icon, add coins, or if I want to use a heart and add hearts to my lives right here, I could do either option. So we're going to cover how to do that. And then for, let's say, if I have 1 right here, I can limit, let's say, a special attack. So if I were to use my special attack, which is swinging the sword and creating a projectile, it takes 1 away from that. So now I can no longer use that attack because it has to have more than 1. So you can create ammo in this case, bullets, or other kind of special attacks that you need to have a number to use, or potions to heal yourself, or other items you collect will add numbers to anything that you put up here in the corner, and you can use them throughout your game. So we're going to cover how to create the heads-up display and item pickups now. Alright, so let's jump over to the scene I last left off with. Should be this one. So we have the health bar and everything set up, the jumping, the lives, hurting enemies and colliding with them and all that. So we're going to add up, let's say, a heart right here for an extra life. So I'm going to go grab the heart from the sprites category and drag that in here. So now that I have the heart in here, we need to add a collision on here so that the player can detect when it's hitting the heart. So I'm going to add component, physics 2D, and circle collider should be fine. And so put the circle collider around the heart so it knows when it gets hit. And I'm going to set that as a trigger, so this way it has no collision with the player. I can pass through it and it'll trigger an event, rather than just collision, which will bump me into that heart. Alright, so now I have collision on there, so I'm also going to add code. So Playmaker FSM. And so by adding code now, I can tell the heart what to do. So when the heart is in this state, we need to determine when it's colliding with the player. So click on state 1, let's call this collision. So we're going to add a transition called finished, and I'm going to add an action in here called trigger 2D event. And so for the collide tag, that's based on the player. So if I click on the player is tagged as player. This way, when I tell the heart what collision tag do I need, there's nothing here, but if I click these 2 lines right here, it'll switch this into the different mode where it can read these now. And so I'm going to click on the player. So when the collision tag of player for whatever object, in this case the player, which is tagged as player tag, hits this heart, it'll send event to finished. So now the heart knows when the player hits it, sends it over here, and we'll go to the next state. So add state, and let's call this state the life state, I guess. So we're going to drag the finished over to the life state, and then in the life state we need to add 1 to the player's life. So we're going to go integer add, so grab this here, and because I put the lives as an integer variable, it'll read the word integer, or I need the word integer instead of like float or something. So from the globals, player's lives, since that's where the player's lives are, it's a global variable, which means it's accessible through all the different objects, so everything can access that particular variable on the player. Alright, and we're going to add 1. We don't need to do it every frame, just a one-time thing. So when the player hits the heart, it'll add 1 life to his life score. But we also want to destroy the heart and take it off the screen, otherwise it'll stay on the screen and every time you hit it, it'll keep adding a life to your system. Great if that's what you're going for, but generally you probably want your item to disappear. So let's go to destroy self. So we add this in here, and so now when the heart gives the player 1 life to their player's life score, it'll destroy self. So if we test this now and press play, the player should be able to walk over to the heart, and when he touches it, it disappears off the screen, and it would have added a life here, except that we can't see it because we've capped our lives at 5. So if I lose a life right now, so now I'm down to 4, And if I go over to where that heart is, take out the enemies, grab that heart now, it adds a 5th heart back into our life system. So as you can see, it's programmed to add lives now. We can also adjust this so that it doesn't add lives. It can add, let's say, a score or a coin. So if you don't add this, we're going to make another variable now that we can put coins up here and other text up here. Alright, so in the same process, we're just going to add on a little bit more. In this case, we're going to add, we need a new life system, or a score system. So this is great for adding something, but we need something to manage, like a manager or some kind of storage or something, a calculator, something to figure out what's occurring. So I'm going to call this a coin status system or a score status system or something. So let's go over to create, and we need a graphical user interface up here, so GUI, and that's what's going to put this score system up there for us. So I'm going to create an empty. Since it doesn't need a sprite. If you wanted a sprite on it, you could put a sprite on there and you could have some kind of background decoration up here taking up some screen space. But if you just want the font or some kind of wording up there, then that works for that. So we're going to put a game object down here, and we're going to add Playmaker FSM, and go to the edit mode, which is right here. So on this one, we're going to take what we already have, this I guess life and this heart. Actually, let's convert that over. So right now we're adding player's life, so we're going to call this a coin now. So imagine, let's say this was a coin sprite. So I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to create a new variable, except that I want a global variable because I want this variable to be accessed from lots of different coins, lots of different reasons. So global variables, and I'm going to create, let's say I wanted to collect coins. So instead of a float, I'm going to use an integer. The difference between float and integer, float is like decimal place numbers. I'm not going to be collecting decimal number of coins, 1.76 coins. I'm going to collect 1 coin, 2 coin, 3 coin. So I'm going to hit integer for that. Alright, so coin integer, and I'm going to add this. And so now I have a coin variable that's global and accessible from lots of different FSMs and objects. So the coin integer is now there, so I can close that out, and I can go back into the life object, and over here where it says integer add, where I was adding the lives on the life section, there now should be an option for coin, because I just created a new coin global. So coin, so now it will no longer add hearts to the player because it's a new number. So we're going to add 1. And in the original variables, the coin, if I were to pull this up again, the coin originally is set to 0, so it has an initial value of 0. I could set an initial higher value if I want, but for score or coins, you probably want to set that starting at 0. Alright, so we're going to be adding 1 to the score system. Now we need to display the score system so we can see what we have. So whether it's score or coins, this is that new game object that we have. So we're going to, first we're going to, I guess, convert that integer. So let's go to the state section. Oops, click on the state that we need, and we're going to, actually let's just type in string, because we're going to use the word string a lot, and just pull up all of them for us. So we're going to convert integer to string. What this means is that the integer that we have, that number, that whole number of 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever, let's say we have 1 coin, 2 coins, string is a set of letters and not variables, but a set of letters and numbers. It doesn't actually add or subtract. It's just an alphabet, basically, just visual letters on the screen. So we need to convert that because we can't display the integer. We need to display, or we can, but we want to display the word coin up here, or score. So we need a string that does that. So we're going to say integer variable, and we're going to grab, let's say, the globals and player or coin. So we're going to take that coin integer, and we're going to take a string variable, and we need to create a variable first for it. So we're going to make a variable, and I'm going to call this, I guess, score, because I'm using coins, it's called coin string. And I'm going to set that as a string, which again is a series of letters and whatever you want to display. So coin string add. So now I have a coin string and it's referencing the global integer. So let's jump back to the state, and this string variable, which we just made, is the coin string. And that's going to display right here, and we want this to do every frame. So it's going to take the number that we have, whatever it is at any given time, which is when we start the game at 0 coins. It's going to convert that to 0 into a, let's say, text. And we're going to now, because we already have this word there, build that string. So build string, in other words, some kind of like draw it on the screen kind of thing. And the string parts, this is 3 parts right now, which means 3 different elements, 0, 1, 2. We only need 2 in this case, so I'm going to set it to 2 just to take out that 1 extra row. And so we're going to type in this case, coin, and element 1 is actually coin with this space after it, and then element is, in this case, switch it over to coin string. So it's going to take the 0, or whatever number it is, save it as a string, and add the word coin with a space to that, so it becomes coin space 0. If you don't have the space in there, you're going to get coin and 0 right next to each other. So whatever you type here is what's going to appear right before your number, which is now a string. And so that's why there's 2 parts. If you wanted more parts, you can kind of put all those pieces together like a puzzle. Alright, so once we have that set up, we're going to resave it again as the coin string. So it saved it once as an integer, it added to it, and it's going to resave it over top of it, and do that again every frame so it constantly updates. And then the last thing to add, we want to add GUI. So let's scroll down here to, let's just type in some more, set GUI. Alright, set GUI text. So I want this on here, so let's drag this on to the very bottom now. And the order of these does kind of matter. So we're going to have set GUI text, and it says game object requires GUI text component. We don't have a component sitting here on the right side, so it's asking us, or telling us we need one. So I'm going to click this, and it automatically gives us a GUI text. We could have hunted it down in the add component menu, but in this case it adds it for us. So awesome. Alright. And we want to again put the text, what's it going to tell us, is what's it going to display on the screen. It's going to display the coin string, which we've added the word coin to that number, and do that every frame. So it's constantly going to display that. So the only issue now is we need to tell where exactly this is going to display. Sometimes your numbers up here, when you create this new game object, could be kind of random. So it's probably best to zero that out. You should be seeing the word the text we've been making written here, but if you don't see it, it's because these numbers are kind of missing or in the wrong place. Also, we're going to need something, so I'm going to call this coins. This number doesn't matter. I mean, this text box doesn't matter. It won't display in the game, but for the purpose of finding it on our view screen right now, I'm going to type that in there. And let's up the font size also. Sometimes if you pick a large enough size, it makes it easier to find this, because it could be very hard to find this on your screen. Alright, so if I take these and let's say zero these out now. So 0, there it is, so it's popping in place now. And 0. And then it disappeared again. So it's probably down here in the bottom left corner, so you just keep sliding these around until you find it. If I zoom out, go to the move tool, and start moving this around on the screen, you'll start to see it. But you can see how barely I'm moving this whole thing, and it's moving it super far around, so it might take a while to find this. But if you zero this out first and then make these font sizes like massive, it makes it a little quicker to find out where it is. And then you can reduce it back down. Let's say something like what 64 does, and move that, okay, way too big. Let's try 32. Let's try 24. Alright, 24 seems decent. Let's go move this. And the reason we're seeing it on the screen right here and not in our scene is because it's a GUI, graphical user interface. It only appears in game mode, and this is the game mode right now. It won't appear in the scene, so it's an invisible object. As you can see, it's invisible. It only appears in game mode. So let's make a few more adjustments. I'm going to change the color, and I want to go with, I'll go with more of a golden color for a coin. Okay. And let's make this, I can change the font also if you want. You should be able to pick like font style. I'll make it bold so it makes it a little more easier to see. You could change the font type, the locations of it, and whatever I type here, you can see will appear over here. But again, this will get overwritten by what is appearing here because we're telling it display this, don't display what's up here. So just a demo, I'll put a coin X right there so you can see that it says something completely different than what this says. Now if I were to press play, you can see it overwrote it already. Whatever is displaying every frame is overwriting on the screen. So actually let me add, instead of coin, let me put a little colon in there, and then I'll just take out the word X. All right. Actually, let's put an S on there also, just to make it look more efficient or realistic. All right, coins. So if I press play, and I'm okay with that, as soon as I press play, it's going to take the word coins written here, add it to the string of 0, and put that there. Looks like that change didn't get saved. Sometimes that happens. All right, S and that, click off there, click back on the game object, and it didn't save again. Click on there, click somewhere else, click off there. Okay, this time it's saved. Somehow there's a glitch in there. It doesn't always work. I should probably rename this while I'm at it. So I'm going to call this the coin system. All right, so the coin system is right here. When I press play, now it should be updated with that. All right, coins, it pops in with 0. And because it's the GUI, it'll display wherever I move, just like the heart system. But if I change the window size, you can see that the coins and the hearts get a little distorted. They're not always staying where you want them to be. That's based on your aspect ratio. Whatever you preset this at, if I take the free aspect and then I start moving around again, I can probably cut the coins off the screen. It's trying to center it, but it's not always working correctly. So whatever you set it to and you move it around based on how this moves for your coin system. So again, wherever you move that, it's based on whatever aspect ratio you preset your screen size to be. That's how the GUI stuff works. All right, and if you don't want the state label on there, we can go back here and turn that off. So that would be under the Playmaker, show state labels, turn that off, and now you don't have that anymore. All right, so we have the coins. I'll put a little colon after that. Our coin system, so it adds the coins. So great, we have a trackable system now. If I run over here and go collect that heart/coin and grab that, it now adds 1. So now I can count up as many coins and hearts as I want. Now if you wanted to code it, and let's say you grabbed 100 coins and you got an extra life, you can code that in here saying, with a clamp on there, if coins or hearts equals, or coins I guess equals 100 or more, add 1 life to the player's lives and start back at 0. So you could do that. In this case, I'm going to add the next step, I guess. We're going to say that the coins are actually, let's say, bullets or usable items. So you can pick up a bullet, you can pick up, let's say, a grenade or some kind of projectile or a magic spell. So now we're going to use, instead of counting score or counting lives like we've been doing, something that's functional for the player. All right, so if I want to say, let's press play again. If my current shift button is the special attack, which I can keep using lots of these special attacks at the moment, I coded that in an earlier lesson. So if I want to say that I'm limited by the amount of special attacks I pick up, which is those, I can rename this to say, instead of coins, we're going to call that magic shots. Sure. So let's see if that word saved. Nope, didn't save. Magic shots. Click on something else, on here, on here, on here. Okay, now it updated. Not sure why it glitches like that. All right, so we're going to take this magic shots. You don't really have to rename that. All right, and we're going to add. So we're going to so that coin that we picked up will display here, but we need to make use of that now. So we're going to go over to the player now and say, instead of his movement, his attacking, and we're going to say that the shift button, which was using the projectile, when you press shift, it goes straight to launching that projectile out. We want to add a step in between here so we can drag or pull from the menu system now, or the HUD. So let's add a state, and let's call this state check quantity. Alright, and we're going to go from the projectile state, instead of straight to using it, we're going to go check the quantity. And we're going to add a finish transition, and we might as well add, and I can reuse the same names over again, projectile. So just like we have here the projectile, I'm going to use it again. So we're going to check the quantity. If the quantity is not enough, it's going to go back to get key. But if the quantity is enough, then it'll continue. So we've got the projectile, it'll check, and then it'll actually use it. So under this check quantity system, we're going to go and add, let's say, integer compare. So we're going to compare what we have. We're going to compare, switch out this system to the coins, which I could rename that variable from coins to magic spells or bullets or whatever you want to call it, grenades. We're going to compare that to 0. And we're going to say if it's equal to 0, we're going to go to finished, which means nothing's going to happen. If it's less than 0, we're going to go back to finished, nothing's going to happen. But if the coins or bullets is greater than 0, we're going to use the projectile state and continue forward. And we don't need to do it every frame, just a one-time thing, and that should allow it to work now. So if we press play, and so I renamed it Magic Shots, it looks like it's partially missing off the screen. Let me slide that over. So coin system, slide that over there so I can read it a little better. Alright, Magic Shots is set to 0. If I go and grab, let's say, let's take those guys out. Alright. If I press the shift key, nothing happens because I can't use a magic shot. It's set to 0 at the moment. But if I go grab this heart now, boom, it adds 1 to my magic shot. So now I have the ability to shoot 1 projectile, except that I can now have infinite amount. So the reason is we never limited that. So if you wanted to say a special pickup that allows you to have a gun that's unlimited ammo, as soon as you picked up that, let's say, gun icon, you're now unlocking the player's ability to shoot this unlimited, this unlimited ammo. So that's one way of doing that. But if you say you already had a gun and you want to limit the amount of bullets you have, so you don't have this new item you just picked up that does infinite amount of whatever, we need to limit what happens with that. So we go back to here and we're going to check quantity. If it's more than 0, it goes to here, and at this state we want to integer add. There is no integer subtract, which kind of seems strange. If you type in integer sub, it's not there. But integer add still works, so we're going to go add, and we're going to add to our coins, which should be the bullets. We're going to add a -1. So we're adding a negative, which means it's taking away. And we don't need to do it every frame, just a one-time thing. So now before it plays the actual attack, it's going to -1 back out of our magic shots. So if I press play again, magic shot set to 0. If I go and grab that, that heart piece, I now have a 1 count on the magic shot. If I jump over here and killed him anyway. Press the shift key, it fires out that 1 and takes 1 away from here. Now I can no longer use it. It's set to locked. You can see that it starts to use it, but it reads it as you have 0, so go back to the state and it won't work. Alright, and so that kind of covers how to use the HUD, the heads-up display. If you wanted to make it a little more visually interesting with icons instead of words, you can put icons up here. If you want to use words and have counts right here, whether it's you're picking up coins or you're adding to your score, you're picking up inventory, you can put all that up there. So you could essentially, if you want to just use icons, just omit this whole text part where we have this coin system, where it's displaying the string, you just don't type anything here, and you just put the, actually you probably skip a lot of this part, and the whole build string and all that. You're just going to put the variable, the integer, post it here, and just tell it where it's going to appear. So if you had a bunch of icons, let's say a bullet icon, you would have a number appear where you want it to appear, right next to that bullet icon. And if you had, let's say, a potions icon, you picked up a potion bottle, it would add a number right to there. So again, you wouldn't put the, you could just delete this whole section out of here, and it wouldn't display that. You would just get a 0 right here next to your potions icon. So you would just move this 0 wherever it needed to be. Let's say you had your potions was right here. You'd have a 0 next to your potions. You run over to your you've picked a potion, now you have 1. You use that potion to heal yourself, and now it goes back to 0. So in that case, you can use icons on your screen instead of whole words. Or if you wanted to just swap out, instead of using text to display it, you could just add more icons, kind of like we do with the heart system. You just add new icons indicating how many you have and how many potion bottles you can use or special attacks you can use. So there's multiple ways of doing that. So hopefully this video kind of explains a lot of that, so you can go through and start plugging away and putting up a general heads-up display.